So today I'll be presenting on my Keystone. Can you guys hear it now?
Yes, just fine.
Entitled An Analysis of Distributive and Procedural Justice, Children's Interpretations of Inequality Produced by a Fair Procedure. Previous literature in psychology has shown that both children and adults dislike inequality in general. However, they would rather receive an advantage over a peer than a disadvantage. Philosopher John Rawls has claimed that large inequalities are often how we decide whether or not procedures are fair in the first place. For instance, in light of the current pandemic, we might think about a lottery system and how fair we would consider that system to be if it were distributing a vaccine versus distributing, let's say, a bonus for a paycheck. So notice how the procedure, the lottery system, is exactly the same in both examples, but the outcomes for the procedure are vastly different and might make us reconsider the fairness of the procedure itself. There are two theories that have been proposed that suggest different ways to determine fairness. The first is called distributive justice, and it states that as long as the outcomes are equal, the procedure that created the outcome should be considered fair. The second is called procedural justice, and it states that as long as the procedure is fair, whatever outcomes arise as a result of that procedure should be considered fair. The reason we wanted to look at children's responses to a fair procedure is one, because we wanted to investigate the second theory, procedural justice, and two, because we have seen evidence of children being averse to receiving a disadvantage when economic games like dictator and ultimatum games were used. We have not seen children showing the same aversity to receiving less when fair games or fair procedures are used. While children might be strong enforcers of equality and merit-based sharing, they do not always follow these rules themselves. For example, while children intuitively know that they should share equally, what they actually do looks very different. In fact, they often fail to engage in equal sharing until about 7 to 8 years old. This gap in what children know they should do versus what they actually do presents a developmental lag that we wanted to further analyze in this study. So we had 3 primary research questions that we wanted to tackle here. Our first asked, do children differentiate between fair and unfair procedures when they receive a disadvantage? Here we predict that younger children will put more of an emphasis on the outcome, labeling any procedure that gives them a disadvantage as unfair. Second, we asked, do children view unequal outcomes as more fair when they happen to a third person than when they happen to themselves? Here we predict that younger children will view unequal outcomes in the third person as more fair than when they themselves are experiencing inequality. And third, we asked, do children see outcomes as more fair when they are receiving a disadvantage? So here we predict that younger children will view an advantageous outcome in the first person as more fair than a disadvantageous one. So we had 53 total participants by the end of the first week of March. These participants were recruited using a family contact database, and they were recruited in the Boston Commons, in the Museum of Science, and in the Social Development and Learning Lab here at BU. So 48 out of the 53 participants ended up having usable data, and all were from middle to upper class socioeconomic backgrounds, as measured using a parent self-report demographics questionnaire compared with local census zip code data. So before our actual test trials began, we started with a warm-up task to familiarize children to our materials. We introduced them to 2 coins, a fair coin with a blue side and a white side, and an unfair coin with 2 white sides. Children were told that if the coin landed on blue, the child in the blue shirt would go on the side first, but if it landed on white, the child in the white shirt would get to go on the side first. The purpose of this was to get children to rationalize choosing the fair coin or the fair procedure, and then give an explanation as to why they chose that coin. The cup shaker here was used because we wanted to create a more game-like atmosphere for the children instead of just flipping it by hand. So first, we introduced the test trials by introducing the concept of the game we want to play and express to children that we want their input on this game. We then tell children that they'll be playing against an absent peer who the experimenter will give stickers to later. We explain that you can either win 1 sticker or 6 stickers, and then we ask them to choose a color to play as, so they can play as either red or black. Whatever color they don't choose, they are told that that will be the color of the absent peer. So here, the child is red and the absent peer is black. We then introduce them to 2 coins they'll be playing with. 1 fair coin, which is red on one side and black on the other, and 1 unfair coin, which will always give the child a disadvantage. So it will always be the color of the absent peer, in this case black, and this coin is black on both sides. So we then tell children that if a coin lands on the color they chose, they'll get 6 stickers and the absent peer will get 1. But if it lands on the color of the absent peer, the child will get 1 sticker and the absent peer will get 6. So after this, we introduce them to a coin bag, which we tell them has 1 fair coin in it and 1 unfair coin. In reality, this bag is preloaded with the coins for the condition they're in. So for example, if they're in the fair coin condition, the bag will have 2 fair coins, but if they're in the unfair condition, the bag will have 2 unfair coins. So once they choose the coin from the bag and they shake it in the coin shaker and reveal the outcome, then we distribute the stickers. So in this case, it was the disadvantage. So the child will get 1 sticker and the absent peer will get 6 stickers, and they're told that they cannot redistribute or share these stickers. So they come in prepackaged plastic bags, and they're told that they'll get the stickers at the end of the game. So after this, we asked them 2 post-test questions. So the first one asked about the fairness of the overall game, not just the outcome. We asked them, in this game, you drew this coin from this bag, and we put it in the shaker, and it landed on either black or red, so you got either 1 or 6 stickers, and the other kid got either 1 or 6 stickers. Now, do you think that this game was very fair, a little unfair, or very unfair? After this, we asked them why they thought so, and then we asked a question about their emotions as well as the perceived emotions of the absent peer. So we asked them how they feel about winning the amount of stickers they won, and also how they think that the absent peer is going to feel about the amount of stickers that they won. And again, we asked them why they think so at the end of every question. And so what I just showed you here was the first party round. So this is the first person trial. After this follows the third person trial, which looks exactly the same, except for children will play with whatever coin they didn't play with in the first person round. So if they played with the fair coin, they'll use the unfair coin. And they're also told that they'll be playing in place of 2 absent peers. So they're told that they're not receiving any stickers in this round, but that they're playing for 2 other children. So going back to our first research question, we found that when children received a disadvantage in the first person trial, so when they're receiving 1 sticker instead of 6 stickers, they aren't clearly differentiating between the coin used. So they're not rating either coin as particularly fair, even the fair coin, I'm sorry. Older children, however, give higher ratings for the fair coin overall than they do for the unfair coin, even though they're receiving the same disadvantageous outcome as the younger children. So here we see a sensitivity to the procedure emerging with age and a greater attention to procedural justice emerging, especially with older children. It is important to note that our sample here was small. We had 12 children in this condition. So these results are not statistically significant. However, they would be interesting. It'd be interesting to look at them with a larger data sample. So in response to our second research question, we do actually see a significant interaction between age and trial occurring. So younger children here are rating inequality in the third person as more fair than inequality in the first person. So here we're actually saying that younger children are saying that it's okay for another person to experience inequality, but it's not okay when that same inequality happens to them, suggesting that they're more tuned into distributive justice and that they're focusing on the outcome more than the procedure. With age, however, these ratings converge, and by about 6 years old, their rating first and third person inequality is the same. So for our final research question, we found that younger children are significantly more likely to rate an advantage or receiving 6 stickers as more fair than receiving a disadvantage or receiving 1 sticker. Again, we see that younger children are more tuned in to the outcomes that they are to receiving than they are to the procedure. So with age, these ratings converge again. By about 7 years of age, all of these ratings are about the same. So they're about 3 out of 4, suggesting that with age, children are focusing more on the procedure than they are the outcome. So some limitations of the current study are that we didn't have enough participants as we originally wanted. So we originally wanted 60 spread evenly across age, but this just wasn't possible given the current pandemic. We stopped testing early March. And we also had a skewed demographic of participants. We ideally wanted more diversity in both income and ethnicity. Some future studies could look into the occurrence of advantageous inequality aversion, which is the opposite of what we're seeing here, which is disadvantageous inequality aversion. Advantageous inequality aversion has actually been shown in westernized societies, and I think it'd be interesting to look at this in more cultures and varying contexts. Other studies could also research how socioeconomic status might play a role into what children define as fair, especially considering the subjects that we're talking about, like fairness and inequality. Children with different levels of experience with these topics might actually have different perspectives and different input. Given that our current demographic of participants here was pretty much upper class, it'd be interesting to get a broader sample. Also, we could look at to what point children start to question the outcome actually and reject the procedure. So here we used a 1 versus 6 inequality. We could use a greater inequality, and perhaps we could even take away resources instead of giving them. One comment we got in the study is that we're always giving children more stickers than they end up with, so they're always getting at least 1 sticker. But what if we gave them some stickers and then decided to take them away? Would they change their definitions of what is fair and what is not fair? Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to answering all your questions.